have lots of questions. We don't have enough time for all my questions, but let's just dive in. So, do you want to give a little bit of an introduction just to start with?
Sure. My name is Gina Covarrubias. I am an engineering life coach. And if anyone watching this has checked out my website, I'm sure you've understood at this point that what I do is I help STEM professionals and engineers who are going through a rough time with their career. And let's face it, Kim, both of us worked in corporate, right? There are a lot of reasons why people might be going through a rough time in their careers. And so as a former engineer, I understand because I've been through a lot of stuff and crap in my previous corporate life. So I get it. And as a life coach, I understand how to help people get out of being stuck or get out of being so unhappy. And there's nothing else I'd rather be doing with my life.
That's amazing. So basically, you help people, engineers who are feeling unhappy or stuck in their career.
Yes, or confused, or maybe they're very indecisive. Do I pick path A, B, or C? Do I go back to school? Or maybe they just hate where they are and they don't see a way out of it. Maybe they like where they are and they still don't know what they want to do next.
Mm,
Um, so many different reasons to be frustrated or confused with your
right.
career. It's not easy to navigate. There's no rule book. We go to college and you're also a STEM person. We go to college and we study really hard and we get out there and think to ourselves, you know what, if I just check all the boxes, do all the right things, I'm going to be happy the rest of my life. And this is going to work out great. And I'm going to find that dream job that I kept hearing about when I was in college. And that couldn't be further from the truth. So people have to learn sometimes the hard way that it's not all glitter and gold. And unfortunately, there are a lot of obstacles and humps to get over before you can even begin to create that dream job, which does have to be created, by the way. You're
Mm,
most likely you're not going to go out there and just find it as if you're in a scavenger hunt.
mm.
It doesn't work that way.
That's fascinating. And like you said, I'm in STEM. I'm from a financial background. And so what you're saying all resonates with me dramatically. So why just help engineers? I suspect many people have the same need for clarity and sort of this type of help. What are your thoughts there?
I completely agree with you, Kim. I think most everybody across every industry can use help with their career, whether you're a college grad or not, it doesn't matter. And so the thing is I can't try to target every working person out there. It's just impossible. I don't have the scalability to be able to do that. What I can do is narrow my focus down to the STEM community, since that's where I came from and that's what I'm familiar with. And I used to be in the trenches in the STEM community. So I think later down the road, once I start growing and I'm able to hire people, then sure, I'll start expanding and branching out into other industries. But for now, STEM is where it's at.
Mm, I think that's amazing. It makes so much sense too. So with your prior history and having worked in that field, you've probably seen some of the issues and experiences that engineers and STEM people have. And I suspect you've also worked through them yourself. So you have an intimate knowledge of the tools that really work well in this situation. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that's a really great point. As I said, when I was in the trenches back in the day, I was really in the weeds. And so I experienced a lot of um, a lot of everything that goes on in an organization, and usually the larger the organization, I'm making an assumption here, but to me it seems the larger the organization, the more dysfunctional it could be. And so along with that, um, it it's like human nature that you can't get away from.
Mm,
It's politics, and it involves nepotism, and it involves um, having to watch your own back, and it involves, um, for some people, hoarding your work and not wanting to share anything out of fear.
mm,
And I do think there's a lot of fear mongering that goes on. That's my suspicion. I think that for the employee, what starts out as a mutually beneficial agreement when an employee gets hired turns into the scales being tilted, and the employer somehow always seems to have the power and is able to leverage that power over the employee. So a lot of employees work um, out of fear,
mm.
and they have to go about their day to day wondering, am I still going to have a job tomorrow? And what is my next performance review going to look like? And am I doing okay? Am I good enough? So I think for me personally, um, what I found to be the most difficult in the corporate environment is that I am very diplomatic, and I've always been very neutral. I'm not one to pick sides. So I grew up as a middle child of five. I had two older, two younger. I'm used to being the diplomat, and I don't like having to choose sides. For me, it's very uncomfortable. I'm more of a peacekeeper. And I found oftentimes in the corporate environment, when it could get a little intense or ugly, I found myself in a position of having to choose. And and then that would frustrate me because I'd be like, this is not what I signed up for. I didn't go to school for this. Like, why am I getting caught in the middle of stuff?
So I'm curious, how would coaching help with all of that? So I heard you say that some employees find themselves in this situation where they're feeling fearful and they've got questions about job security and really about where their career is going and all of that. And then they're perceiving that the employer has all the power. How can coaching help those people?
Oh, such a great question. So I think of myself as an employee advocate. And so what I do is I work with individuals so coaching is about changing perspectives and offering people new information that they can use in a positive way to change their lives. So what I do is I work with individuals and I offer them new information, and I bring them from a place of either being fearful, confused, scared, low self-confidence, whatever the case may be. I bring them up, and I kind of basically give them a mental reboot. And I help them understand they have a lot more power than they realize. And they have a lot more skills, and they're so much more capable than they give themselves credit for. So, coaching is all about helping them understand all of the assets and all the ways in which they really hold power.
Mm,
And so, it's very enlightening for people to be coached by someone like me and come out of it at the end where they could say, wow, I'm not afraid to stand up to my employer anymore. I'm not afraid to draw boundaries anymore. I understand my own self-worth. And now I understand how I can create my own future, whether with this employer or someone else. And I'll tell you also, Kim, a lot of engineers come to me with a common problem. I don't know if I want to stay in engineering. They think that engineering has caused a lot of their issues that they've
mm,
experienced in the workplace. And they believe if I just leave engineering, then that'll solve my problems. And so I work with them again to help them understand, first of all, where they are right now. And then I help them try to understand, is engineering really the problem here, or is it something more profound?
Mm,
And the answer, the short answer is that it's always something more profound.
mm. Yeah, that really resonates. You know, back in the day, without revealing my age, I used to think that, like, if there was a problem in a relationship or a job or whatever the case may be, that the problem was outside of me. And so the solution was just to change the job, the relationship, or whatever. But it sounds to me like what you're saying, and I came to realize this over time, is that really the problem, if we want the solution, both the problem and the solution lie within. Is that what I hear you saying? The power to change is really starts internally.
Yes, the short answer is yes. Anytime people blame an external outside of them for the way they feel, whether it's a job or a spouse or a relationship or what have you, anytime they blame that external, then absolutely what you just said applies. The real solution is to start internally
Hmm.
and to dig deep down inside here and figure out, well, how are you actually framing this? What are your beliefs? And part of my job as a coach is to challenge people's beliefs.
Hmm.
And what that does is it forces them um, to face themselves. It forces
What
them to take a look at themselves in the mirror. And sometimes people aren't ready for that, or they don't like what they see in the mirror. And coaching is not about self-judgment or criticism ever, ever, ever. It's about exposing, okay, this is who you really are. This is what you really believe. Are your beliefs working for you? And if not, let's work to change them.
I could totally see how that would be scary for someone who's not really ever embarked on that journey before, like taking a look at that and potentially creating some feelings of shame around all of that. That could be very scary for people. So what would you tell people who are kind of, they're very much wanting a change, but they're kind of scared about it at the same time?
Mhm. So what I tell people is I offer 2 free coaching sessions to anybody up front. And it's very informal, it's very laid back. They don't have to do anything to prepare. The one thing I do ask them to bring is their attention. And so what I do is I ask a series of questions, and my instruction is to basically be as honest as you can, even if it hurts, even if you don't want to say something out loud. The more honest you could be answering these questions out loud, the quicker we can get to a solution. And it's a very judgment-free zone. My job is never ever to judge or to tell people what they should be doing or how to live their lives. It's about helping them understand themselves.
That's beautiful. I've been on both sides of the coaching relationship as the coachee, the person being coached, and the coach too, as well. And so that makes a lot of sense, like creating that safe space, that trusting, non-judgmental space. I think it facilitates that disclosure because sometimes it's not that we don't want to say it to our coach. It's we don't even want to admit it to ourselves, really, because the moment we say it out loud, then we kind of have to like do something with it. What do you think about that idea?
Right. That means you have to be accountable
Right.
for your belief
Yeah. Yeah.
and your thoughts, even if you don't like them. So being able to say something out loud and admit something out loud that you don't want to hear out of your own mouth is, yes, it's very challenging for some people, but that's where the breakthroughs happen.
Right.
And as a coach, you know, that part of your job, part of my job as a coach, is to offer insightful questions that people would never think to ask themselves.
I so agree with that. And you've coached me before, so I know this is one of your special skills, but it is very profound when the coach asks a question that sparks an insight that never would have occurred to you before, like on your own. So I think that's the beauty of coaching, is that it can spark insights that you might not otherwise have had, no matter how much self-awareness you have. Um, what are your thoughts on that? Is that one of the key benefits for coaching? And what else is there what's the benefits of coaching in your mind?
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you, Kim. As I mentioned, part of the coach's job is to unravel some of these things inside people that have been festering, that they've either ignored or avoided or numbed. And you and I know that when people do that with their emotions, they just come back harder next time. So a big advantage to coaching is to bring the negativity to the surface and accept it for what it is and help them understand you're only human. We all go through these negative times in our lives. And the other beautiful thing about coaching is that we don't teach that we're supposed to be happy all the time. That is not what you and I teach people that we coach. It's unhealthy to try to be happy all of the time. We don't want that. But instead, coaching is about helping people deal with the negative emotions
Mm,
in a healthy and productive way, instead of, let's say, having to numb or avoid feelings or sweep them under the rug or whatever we do. And that can come in many different forms, as you know. Some people like to blame, others like to gossip, others like to get violent or belligerent, others like to gamble, others will sleep it off. Like all the ways that we deal with the negative emotions they're numerous. So yeah,
so agree with that.
everybody has their own way of release.
I wonder, do you think that this is more characteristic of the sort of the STEM community, in that we're very reluctant? This is maybe just my experience, but I see it with my clients as well. We're very reluctant to talk about emotions, and I've wondered why that is. And I think there is some stigma or some perception that emotions, just even talking about emotions, is seen or viewed as a weakness. What do you think? What do you see on your side?
I think there is some truth to that in the STEM community, that addressing and talking about emotions could be viewed as a weakness. I think that's partially true. I also think it's true that because STEM individuals are so logical and analytical,
Yes.
and because that's what makes them comfortable, and because emotions don't make them comfortable, then they just shy away from them and kind of stay away. And of course, I'm generalizing. That's not true for everybody in STEM. But I do also believe that the STEM environment itself does not promote human expression,
Mm,
whether college or out in the corporate world or the government world, wherever you work. I think the STEM environment could do a much better job of allowing people to be humans.
mm. Yeah, that's profound. I'm letting that sink for a moment. So both points were really good. The logic and analytical sort of thought process is being the comfort zone. That's true for me for sure. um but yeah, and just being, having that be acceptable, to sort of be human, and talk about emotions as a strength, a source of strength, rather than like as something that we need to sort of hide or shy away from. Yeah, yeah, that's a really great point. So how do you see that conversation around emotion showing up in your coaching, and why is it helpful for people?
So the way it shows up in my coaching, it's never forced. Um, what happens is when people start opening up and telling me about their issue or whatever is causing them to suffer, they start getting wrapped up in the things they're saying. And they, without even realizing it, often what happens is they start spilling their guts. And they're not used to doing that. And in those moments, all these emotions just start coming out without even me trying to twist their arm. It just kind of, when they have that comfort level with me, they let it out and they let loose. And oftentimes, these are things they've been suppressing for such a long time that it's almost like an outlet for them. And
Kind of
so,
like a release or a relief. Yeah.
or both,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. My puppy dog, I'm going to move real quick because my puppy dog is telling me that she wants to get on the other side of the gate. Okay. So excellent questions, Kim. Yeah, these are very insightful questions for anybody who's curious about what we do as a coach, because a lot of people don't really understand what a life coach is.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, a common misconception is that people sometimes think I'm a career coach.
Mm.
And I have to explain the difference between the two. I do not help with career coaching. I don't match people to jobs. I don't help people with resume writing. I don't help people with networking or recruiting. I don't give people strengths finders tests like Myers-Briggs or anything like that. Those are all tactical actions that a career coach would probably do for most people, whereas with a life coach, it's all cognitive. It's
Mm.
it's cognitive strategy.
That's so cool. What got you interested in coaching in the first place?
Um, it was by accident. I was looking for a new podcast one day prior to starting my next yoga routine at home. And I saw this podcast from the life coach school, and I forget the title of it. And I thought, a life coach lady. I wonder what this lady has to say. I'm doubtful, but you know what? I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to listen to this. And I started listening to this podcast. And again, I don't know what the subject was, but I was almost immediately hooked. And that's not easy to do for me. I'm not easy to impress. So I start listening to this podcast and I'm like, whoa, I'm like blown away. So I told myself, all right, I have to start at the beginning. I have to go all the way back. We were on episode 200 something. I don't know what it was. So I went all the way back and started with number 1. And this was with Brooke Castillo at the Life Coach School. And I listened to 1 and 2 and 3. And I thought, oh my gosh, I should be on that podcast. That should be me. So I investigated different life coaching schools and ended up signing up. I wasn't even looking for it.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it was kind of amazing the way it all happened.
Yeah, we went to the same school. So obviously, I have acquaintance with Brooke Castillo and her philosophy, and yeah, similar story. So so amazing, so life changing, so transformative in such a meaningful way. Life coaching is. Do you want to say anything more about that?
It is, and the tuition for the life coach school was one of the highest that I saw as I was investigating other schools. But since I liked what Brooke had to say and I liked her teaching style so much, I decided that was the right one for me. And I didn't know what was going to come of it. I didn't know if I was even going to like it. I didn't know if I was going to be able to coach other people successfully. Like, I didn't really know. I just had this gut feeling that I have to do this. This is so right. This feels
Mm,
so right.
mhm,
And so I went with it, and I told myself, at worst case scenario, I pay this money, I get certified, it's going to help me in my life. Even if I never use it, even if I don't become a coach, if I decide I don't like it, it's still going to help me grow. So I decided I'm going to do it simply for that reason, because I know I'll learn some things. And boy, was I blindsided. It really, really transformed me. It really did. As you know, it was a 6-month program, and we covered a lot of material in that 6 months. And I learned so much about myself, and I grew so much, and I'm still growing. I still have to work at it all the time. But for sure, it transformed the way I think. And since then, I view the world differently.
mm. So outside of being a life coach, what are the other areas of your life where this has made a difference and why?
My relationships, for sure. Relationships with family and friends, um, and being able to minimize drama in my life, things that I used to get really mad over, I don't anymore. So it's had a very big calming effect on the way I think about things. I don't blow things out of proportion. And I mean, I didn't do that all the time anyway before. I think I was pretty level-headed anyway, but it has only enhanced um, the way I view facts versus the things I'm telling myself. I'm really, really self-aware of the extra head trash that goes on. And I'm so aware of it that I can stop it before it even starts. Usually, not always, but usually. And boy, has that been transformative.
Right? So much so. So agree. Okay, last question. So what do you particularly love the most about working with your clients and coaching?
What do I love the most? Um, I love the fact that um, they can transform themselves before my eyes with my guidance. They can transform themselves as long as they work at it, because let's face it, this takes a lot of work. Okay, it's like hiring me or you is like hiring a trainer at the gym, except we don't train physically, we train mentally. And so when the people are willing to do the work, what I love is seeing the transformation at the end and hearing how they might tell me, now I actually enjoy my job. Now I actually look forward to going to my job. Now I'm not living in misery anymore. Now I understand I don't have to leave engineering in order to be happy. So I will tell you for sure, Kim, if had a life coach, if I had me as a life coach, 15 years ago or so, I would still be working in my professional job, which would be fine. But I really could have used some coaching back in the day when I was going through some really tough times in the corporate world.
Mhm, mhm,
So I think the short answer to your question, what do I love the most? Helping people avoid the same fate that I had,
mm,
helping people avoid either depression or just a really bad downward spiral, or helping them avoid making a mistake of going back to school for the wrong thing because they're not happy. That is probably the most rewarding part of it all.
Life-changing. Hey, yeah. You're
Yeah.
making such a difference in people's lives. So congratulations on that.
Well, we both
Amazing.
are, Kim. That's
Yes.
what coaches do. That's what
Yay.
coaches do. At least you and I. Not all life coaches are created equally.
Right.
And so I would definitely encourage people to do your homework and get your free coaching up front if you can, and get to know their style, because every life coach is different.
Such a great point. Yeah, as an unregulated industry, to your point, life coaches, they span the spectrum, right? From career coaches all the way up to
Yeah.
life coach school coaches. But the thing I love about life coach school coaches is I think we have some of the most amazing tools in the whole industry anywhere. And so sharing those tools with people, so exciting. So yeah, we're lucky. Hey, very lucky.
Yes, it is so exciting. And the other great thing is we get to make up our own tools too. We get
Yes.
to be creative as we see fit. And it's just all around very rewarding.
Yeah,
And,
totally.
and in a way, I still feel like I'm engineering. When I create content and when I write blogs and get my presentations ready, when I'm getting ready to do a talk, that's engineering. Like that's, putting a lot of stuff together to make something happen, to make it work. And so I'm still doing engineering. It's just not technical anymore.
Yeah, it looks a little different and
Hmm.
it's having a huge impact on people's lives. So that's
Yeah.
great.
Well, thank you so much for this interview, Kim. You had some really great questions.
You're welcome. You're welcome.